All right, everyone. This is sort of a different kind of video than, well, not really, because it's an abandoned house and everything. And you know how much I love sort of Baltimore history and historic properties in town. And this one is something I knew nothing about. I don't even think you knew about it.
I didn't know until a few weeks ago.
All right, so this is Peter C. Brooks. And he is Cab Calloway's grandson. Cab Calloway, of course, the famous musician, singer, actor. He was fabulous.
He was, my gosh. And I mean, so many things to go over. Actor, author. Not a lot of musicians write books, you know?
Yeah.
But star of stage, screen, Broadway.
One of the original performers
television.
at the Cotton Club.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Took over the Cotton Club for Duke Ellington. And, I mean, stuff I'm learning, when he left Baltimore, he went to Atlantic City where he performed in a bunch of clubs. And these clubs were owned primarily by Jews. When he came back in 1930s after he had achieved success, he wrote a book for African American musicians to instruct them how to perform in Yiddish or to perform Yiddish songs.
Oh, that's so cool.
And yes, so they could ingratiate themselves with the owners of the clubs as they left Baltimore. That's the type of person he was. I mean, he even wrote several dictionaries of the language that he spoke called jive, which has been picked up. All the words that we use like groovy and cool and hip and cat and all that stuff are a part of what he brought to America, his innovation. And that's why I think this house really is probably the most important abandoned spot, at least I think, in the city of Baltimore.
Yeah, so like...
Because I've got a theory.
This property behind us, which we're doing the interview out here in the alleyway because it's a little bit quieter than being on Druid Hill Avenue. This is 2611 Druid Hill Avenue. Cab Calloway lived here from
1916 to 1921.
1916 to 1921. So he would have been relatively young then. Yeah.
Yes. He would have been about 11 years old until he was about 15 or 16. The family had to move him from here because he was getting in trouble.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he was getting in trouble. He was hanging out at night at the clubs and stuff like that. He was always working many jobs. He was always a hustler, waiting tables, shoe shining, working at Pimlico, would walk from here to Pimlico.
That's a long walk.
It is a long walk. And especially when you go in there and you have to clean stables and walk horses and then come all the way back. So it was
right.
It was a drag.
So let's talk a little bit about how you were unaware that this property, that your grandfather had lived here. How did you find out that he had lived here?
The only house that my mom and I knew about was about 1037, I think it was, or 1067 Druid Hill Avenue, which became Booker T. Washington Middle School.
Right.
And then about a month ago, an architect and a community activist, Marty Petrelli, let me know that this was my grandfather's home, and I had no idea. Apparently the historical preservation had done the research. They confirmed it. They're going to name this whole square after him because he had lived here.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that is awesome. A square is a great thing. How many people have a square named after him? I mean, totally awesome. And thank you to the city of Baltimore for doing that, seriously. But this actually is the place where hip-hop started.
Yeah.
This is the exact spot, which means it's really, really significant. And the reason why I say that is because the characters that Cab Calloway made a career out of singing about, Minnie the Moocher, Smokey Joe, and the Reefer Man. And remember, he cut the Reefer Man in 1932.
Yes.
And that's like a precursor before, now everybody talks about reefer all the time.
Right.
But not a lot of, there were some people, but it's a brave thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, those characters he met here in Druid Heights because they're still here.
Yeah.
And so he provided for people a way to get out of the ghetto. Right. And that was by singing about the conditions and the people in the ghetto. And that tradition was picked up by the hip-hop artists. And he was the first one to prove that you could do that. Right. Because before then, most jazz singers played jazz standards. And like I was saying with the Yiddish, they would perform according to what would get them money. Mm-hmm. And so he was the first one to kind of break from that condition and say, hey, I'm going to tell you guys what's going on. Now, the reason why that is significant and why Cab Calloway is so significant and why it's important that we honor him or something in some kind of big way is the fact that, unlike hip-hop musicians, when Cab left the ghetto, when he left Druid Heights, he left all the anger there with him. When you listen to his music, there is not a lick of anger anywhere.
No.
And that is totally,
you want to jump up out of your chair and start jumping around and having fun.
So here's the thing, even though the hip hop artists are extraordinarily brave by saying the conditions as they are in a documentary style, when you come off to somebody as being really angry, what do? They take a step back.
Right.
And so Cab was able to make himself and the music accessible. I think the other thing that's significant about Cab Calloway was he was the first black person, or one of at least, to really present himself in public and in shows and in stage and stuff as equal to...
Well, that's what I'm saying. The audience, even back then, was it was this wide audience, very diverse audience. Mm-hmm. So, he appealed to the masses.
Right.
And
well, the Cotton Club wouldn't let you in if you were black. So it was an all-white audience.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And ironically, they didn't get much radio play. They did from the Cotton Club, but most people heard Cab Calloway live.
Right.
And so it was a really visceral kind of experience. But a diverse appeal in terms of the music, yes. Jewish people, white people, a lot of people from Japan and Europe and stuff really appreciate it.
Especially today.
Yeah.
Especially today. And if you...
African Americans. Dude, you won't believe this. He would come into Baltimore, and people came to Baltimore because they knew he was from here to see Cab Calloway, because they knew he would put on his best show here. He would perform 3 and 4 times a night
at the Royal Theater.
Royal Theater, and at people's apartments. Back then, they used to have rent parties.
Wouldn't that be?
I know. He would do that. He would. Any place where the Sphinx Club.
What was your grandfather like? I mean, when he was, when you were a kid, what was he like?
He was a tough guy. He was a tough guy on everybody because he expected, a certain degree of professionalism and discipline in everything he did. With the family, he was pretty quiet. He loved us. We knew that. But it was his downtime, because he put so much energy into the performance.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, he liked it to be quiet and down and stuff like that. I was a little kid. We'd run all over the house. Atari and stuff was just coming out. He loved it when Atari came out because we were isolated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But before that, if we had pillow fights and all, he was the first one in there with his belt. What are y'all doing? Tear up my house.
Now, your grandfather passed away in 1994.
Yes.
How many? I mean, he was performing up till when?
Boy, up until probably 1993, 94. I think when he suffered his stroke, he had just come off of tour.
Okay.
I mean, that's the other thing that makes him such a great example for today's African American particularly, but all children that live in poverty. I mean, that guy worked. When he lived here, he worked 4 jobs. He worked up until just about the day he died. Mm-hmm. And if he could have performed then, he would have. Partly because he loved it, but also partly because the money was important. He spent just about all that he earned. I mean, we didn't get any big. Did you get any big and dowry?
Oh, this is Cody.
Come on,
come here.
Yeah.
This is the Cab Calloway's great grandson.
Yes, that's right.
And it's no, I know it.
Hold on, let him
Coach Cheese.
Coach Cheese. Yeah.
You know what?
I'm just gonna call him Cody. Cody's
cool.
easy enough.
Cool.
That's what I'm gonna be calling him.
I named him Cochise because Cochise was the greatest peacemaker in American history, save for Martin Luther King, and he may have been a greater one than Dr. King, but he was just a great part of American history, as is Mr. Calloway.
Me down to a T.
Okay, it's still rolling. I'm just checking.
Not a problem.
So basically, what and in my opinion, any structure where such a really a superstar of his day lived in Baltimore should be saved, in my opinion. This property, it needs a lot of work, but the thought of unceremoniously destroying it. Do you know if when they lived here, was it the whole house, or did they live in part of the house?
Not sure. I know that they moved here because his father had died. His father died at a young age, and they couldn't afford, I think, the one further down Druid Hill. This was his mother's side, her family home, and they moved from here to Wilson Park. Partly because he was in trouble, but then also she got remarried, and so that had a significant part of it,
I
too.
see.
So she was living with family here, so...
And Cab Calloway really took off in show business in the 20s, I would assume, right?
Late 20s. His big hit was 1931. He graduated from Baltimore in 25. He took over the Cotton Club in 29, just 4 years after leaving, and then he had a #1 single in 1931.
And did he, was he living here near the end of his life? Did he move back to Baltimore?
No, he never did. He stayed in Westchester. He was extremely popular in the Catskills, so he was in upstate New York.
Yeah.
He would truck up the highway to the Catskills and come back home. No, but he's one of those guys, once he left, he just started working. He never really came back. The one musician I know who never left, really, was Chick Webb. Chick left Baltimore, went to New York, was extraordinarily successful.
Right.
But he came back to Baltimore to die with his family, to pass on, because he was very, very sick.
And your brother is sort of...
keeping the tradition alive. Christopher puts on the most awesome show. I mean, it's not Cab Calloway. It is Cab Calloway, but it's incredibly entertaining. It really is.
Now, for those of you on here who have never heard of Cab Calloway, first I'm going to say, what the hell's wrong with you? But go onto YouTube and watch Cab Calloway's work.
Especially, my favorite is that...
It's unbelievable.
That rotoscope thing.
A lot of people have seen the Betty Boop animation of the ghosts and the skeletons.
Yeah.
That was all rotoscope.
But I mean, his performances were just fluid and crazed and just it just so incredible,
full of energy.
Yeah,
up until the end, really. Even as a senior, he was just.
And I love the scene with him in Blues Brothers. And I think that was really the first time I ever saw Cab Calloway, and I was like, I remember when I was a kid I saw it, and I found a tape at the thrift store of Cab Calloway music, and that's when I started listening to Cab Calloway. And then years later, of course, I found out, he's from Baltimore, naturally.
Right.
And
there's two things really important about that. First is the fact that Cab Calloway could have passed for white. He had slick skin. He had very fair skin, like I did.
Right.
Like I do. He never did. The other thing, he was actually born in Rochester. He could have told people he was from Rochester. But if you ever walked up to him and said, "Hey, Cab, where you from?" Baltimore. Always Baltimore.
Yeah.
And in fact, I know a person who was a driver for him, who would pick him up at the airport and stuff. And I talked to her the other day. She said whenever she would pick him up at BWI, he would always ask to come here first to see his old neighborhood. So this house was really significant to him, even though he never settled here.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up at the end of the video. There'll be a bunch of links and everything, and I have not gotten into the house yet. I'm going to try to make that happen today. But I would really appreciate, we have a bunch of phone numbers of people. City council people, the governor of Maryland, the mayor of Baltimore, to see if we can get any movement to sort of save this property from demolition.
Yeah.
Which I would really love to see, because there is, Cab Calloway, I know that there's some of his pieces, like in museums, like, don't the Smithsonian have something with him?
Yes, they do. They even have films of him vacationing and stuff.
Yeah. So, it's really would be a wonderful thing. We have the Edgar Allan Poe house, we have the Star Spangled Banner house. It would be nice to have the Cab Calloway house for Baltimore as well. And it would be a nice economic push for this blighted neighborhood.
And here's the thing, because the houses of Billie Holiday, Chick Webb, and U.B. Blake are all gone, this is the last one.
Yeah.
It should have encompassed all of that kind of pre-World War II energy which came out of Baltimore, which was extremely extraordinary. I've never seen anything. I don't know of any other city that can boast like 4, 5 top musicians in about a 40-year period.
Yeah.
And musicians who accomplished so much.
So much.
As we pointed out, Cab showed we're equals, you know. U.B. Blake practically stopped blackface on Broadway.
Yeah.
Cab had an assistance in that too, because he did do a little blackface with Jolson, but it wasn't his shtick. He was trying to show African Americans as better than that.
Yeah.
Billie Holiday practically stopped lynching with Strange Fruit. What a powerful song.
Yeah.
And then Chick Webb is just the most inspirational story of human achievement against obstacles. Baltimore's got an extraordinary story to tell, and they've got to tell it.
These are
because no one else can.
You think about this is like some of the most iconic African American entertainers.
Yeah, Cisco, Tupac
in American history have all come from Baltimore.
Ethel Ennis,
it's like the list.
Avon Long,
yeah.
And you could keep going. And I tell you this, man, is my theory, you know, whatever, but between Francis Scott Key and Oprah Winfrey, the people who live or are born in Baltimore are the most talented in America, bar none.
I agree with that too. I do.
Yeah.
We
just lack self-esteem.
This is a town. It's like a town of artists.
Yeah.
And there's something about this place. Most people look at it and they're like, oh, I wouldn't go there. Oh, it's terrible. For me, it's inspiring.
Yeah, it is.
And it's exciting, which is something you don't get in the suburbs.
Yeah.
But
and those guys came from here and took over New York.
Oh, they absolutely.
U.B. Blake was on Broadway, man.
Yep.
That is huge. And that was like 1912, 1917.
Right.
It is huge.
Right.
So you got a lot to be proud of, you guys, if you don't tear it apart, if you don't destroy it and stuff. There's a lot here to cultivate that can make you the capital city that you really are, if you just admit it.
Yeah, so, I mean, the whole point of this video is I saw this story in the Baltimore Brew. I said, this is something I definitely need to do a video on. And that's why I'm here, and I'm so thankful that you came out and Cody, they came out to say hi and do this for me because
thankful to you. We love your work, and you are another example of that Baltimore tradition of incredible artists.
It's so weird. It's so weird because I contacted Peter, and it's sort of like, for me, it's always like, oh God, I got to convince this person that, you know, I'm a, you know, like not just some like schmuck or whatever. And then it turns out Cody is a fan.
Yes.
So I was like, perfect. As soon as you wrote back and you're like, my son is a huge fan of yours, and I was like, oh good, well at least I'll get them out there so I can talk to them at the house.
Absolutely. But I had known, I'd seen your work, but I didn't know your name, so now I got a name to the face.
Well, now you got a name to the face. But this has been so cool to see this, and I think it's great that Cab's family is trying to keep the tradition alive and keep his. It's
a piece of history, and you know, in your other videos, you go through these like horrible, like you said, blighted neighborhoods, dilapidated, condemned buildings. Yeah, and it would just be nice if there was one less of those.
The thing is like you know, all these places I go into in Baltimore, they all have some sort of history. You know, I'm very sort of focused on industry and homes and everything else, and every home here has like a story. But this home has a very special story because like one of the icons of American music lived here. So,
and I tell you, as I tell everyone who will listen, it's not about me, it's not even about Cab Calloway, it's really about you and what you value and your place in the universe, your history, your legacy. And I think hip-hop, no matter how you feel about it, it's an American phenomenon.
Right.
And so it's something we all have to be proud of because we invented it. And it's, you know, an expression of who we are.
Right.
And so if this is the place where it started, wow, you should really, you know, take a minute to think about that first. But
I totally agree.
It's,
don't let flames die out.
And I've been told we need like $3 million to stabilize the house. The problem is it's just not safe. You know, it might fall down or anything like that. But It seems like if you've got money to demo, if I could at least put part of that.
It's a good test. Have me walk through.
Mm-hmm.
If it survives that, you could knock it down to $1 million.
No comment. But thank you. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Don't know how this is going to turn out, but this is just a preliminary interview with Peter C. Brooks, his son Cody, Cab Calloway's
family, yeah,
grandson and great-grandson. It was nice talking to you both.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. All right, guys. All right. We found a way in, the front door. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
It's just magically popped open for us. And now we're gonna now the grandson and great-grandson of Cab Calloway are going to go into his old homestead. So this should be exciting. Yeah. I don't know how the inside is. Let me go first and I'll...
Yeah, if I'm brave enough. I don't even know.
You'll be okay.
Video.
You'll be okay. Oh.
We're doing this because we're interested in buying a house.
It's actually not in bad as condition as I thought it would be. There are holes in the floor, but I think we're okay. Look at this. Yeah, look at the... See, that didn't collapse. Those were cut.
Mm.
So this is the house.
Wow. And the roof and stuff. It's still intact. That's why.
Yeah. It's pretty solid.
These houses were great solid. Yeah, this has got a hole. That's why they patched it over.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
All right, let's go have a look around. See.
Man, there may have been a piano here in the front probably because the mother was a church organist and she taught them how to play piano.
So your grandfather probably... This was probably his room that he, the family room.
Yeah, this would have been guest room. Yeah, in fact, the living room. Yeah, this would have been where they would entertain. Yeah, in this front room. And like I said, she probably had a piano.
Wow, that's a
clever pitfall trap. Let's see if I can shine a light down there.
I'd say it's a pretty good drop. Yeah.
How far?
That's a pretty good drop.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. All right. Here we are getting into the real damage of this home.
That's a serious drop.
We've got...
Guys, holding on lives and rescue.
So even if I got down in that door down there, you wouldn't have been able to get in anyway.
Yeah.
This is completely messed up.
But we've seen it. We've got this in case anybody wants to recreate it. You've got at least this much to go. So, yeah, grandfather, grandmother, this is your house, the house of my great-grandparents and my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather. And so I just hope that you are happy with me and my family and the things that I've done here to try to preserve your legacy, your name, and to show people the contribution that you made to try to help all of humanity. Because I know that my grandfather suffered a great deal, and so he tried to make up for that suffering by showing people the love and the joy that is in our life. And so if you're happy with what I'm doing I'm speaking to my ancestors. I want you to help me and to help me preserve this house and make it a good thing for all people, because I know that that is what you stood for, was for making good things for all people. And we have a record of all the good things that you have done for all the people. And you know, there's no greater song, I think, of Calloway's in being here than the song Everybody Eats when they come to my house. And here we are in his house. And we're not eating, but Grandfather, we wish you to give us the gift, the spiritual gifts, the food of spiritual gifts. And
Amen.
Assistance in any way you can. We do appreciate it.
Amen. This is one of the cool things, though. Someone painted this. It's an old, looks like a blanket chest, but Kiss, Gene Simmons.
Yeah. That could be an antique.
Japanese horror.
Oh, it's an antique, all right. 70s. All right, so let me just give you guys a quick look at this property. This is not safe at all.
So we better be careful. These floors can cave in.
Oh, I know, honey. So back here would have been the kitchen.
The kitchen, the bathroom.
And dining room right here. And you can see the basement is, so the second floor of the house is, in the back at least, has collapsed. It is slated to be demolished. And what we would like to do is bring awareness to this property and have it saved and turned into a Calloway museum, which would be ideal. No. No, the police are here.
So I guess we keep streaming.
Hey, hand me that thing. So what'd you think, seeing the inside?
Amazing, 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 amazing. If any house is haunted, it's probably this one.
Yeah, could be.
Amazing. Just the scale of stuff, and I mean, your imagination goes wild when you go in there.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how it all, and looking for clues as to where it all started and how it came from.
Yeah. Far too rickety to go upstairs, though.
Oh yeah, but thank you so much for that
experience,
man.
I'm glad you got to see the inside.
I'm just overwhelmed. Yeah. Look, I'm gonna tell you what to tell them. Choose any one. This is the most important, but choose any one.
Which one the most important one?
The top one.
Okay.
And look, because here's the secret. If we can't save a house, how are we gonna save a neighborhood?
That's right.
True.
Because this neighborhood is going fast.
Yeah.
The more we call people and the more hell we raise from here, the more people are going to pay attention.
That's true.
And they're going to do something. They're going to be like, these people getting on my nerves, give them what they
I
want.
told you whatever you're
That's all
doing,
we
keep
gotta
on
do.
doing it.
Yes,
Keep on doing it, baby, because it's
No,
worth
you
it.
doing it. You doing it.
We're
I ain't
doing
nothing.
it.
I'm doing it.
We're doing it. Let's share it. We're doing it. Because I be out here, don't I, Uncle Steve?
Yes.
I be grinding for us. I told you I was.
Right.
They got the right person doing you, Uncle Steve.